Hello, this is Connor, and I did my renewable energy source on hydropower. So, hydropower is driven mainly by the hydrologic cycle, and without it, it would not exist. The hydrologic cycle is the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the Earth's surface. It is driven by the sun and is completely renewable if used sustainably and protected. So, within this diagram, it shows the full hydrologic cycle. The three main parts of the hydrologic cycle are evaporation, condensation, and precipitation, and everything else just kind of cycles through that. And we can apply the hydrologic cycle to creating our own power. So the kinetic energy that occurs within the flowing water can be harnessed to create electricity as well as power simple machines. This is the core concept behind hydropower. Rivers, tides, and the gravitational energy stored behind dams are all ways for hydropower to generate electricity. So a hydroelectric dam is the most common way that we generate hydropower. So they capture the energy of falling water behind a reservoir, or behind a dam, which is a reservoir, to generate electricity. The turbine converts the kinetic energy of the falling water into mechanical energy which causes a generator to convert that energy into electricity. So here's a diagram of a hydroelectric dam. It has the dam structure itself and the reservoir behind it, which is usually a dammed up river. And it has an intake guard so that debris and fish aren't getting into the penstock and going into the turbine and getting all tore up and damaging it possibly. So the fast flowing water is going to spin the turbine much like steam would in coal-fired power plants or any other power plant for that matter. And the water does just as good in creating electricity. Unfortunately, hydroelectric power plants aren't all good. They do have their advantages and their disadvantages. Some advantages is that they have a high net energy yield, so that they produce a lot of high quality energy pretty consistently. They have a large untapped potential because we haven't really developed a really concrete tidal hydroelectric energy production system, and there's a lot of rivers that could be dammed up and dams that could be built to produce energy. It's very cheap. I think it's like 89 cents per kilowatt hour, which is very cheap. And they don't emit any CO2 because they're not burning anything. It's just harnessing the movement of the water. However, they do cause serious land disturbance because you basically have to create a lake, which destroys a lot of habitat for animals on the upstream side of the river, and it might cut off certain species on the bottom side of the dam as well. And also people will have to move if a dam is decided to be built, and if they live in an area where the water would possibly reach, they'll have to move away from that. They also create very high methane emissions because there's a lot of plant decay from the reservoir being dammed up. And it also, like I said, it disrupts both upstream and downstream aquatic ecosystems. Hydropower is also the leading renewable energy source and produces about 16% of the world's electricity in 150 countries, which is quite a few. And according to the UN, only about 13% of the world's potential for hydropower has been developed, which is not very much. We also haven't really looked into the coastal aspect or the tidal hydropower sources, because in some coastal bays and estuaries, water levels can rise or fall by 6 meters or 20 feet between daily and high and low tides, and dams can be built across the mouths of such bays and estuaries to capture the energy in these flows for hydropower. Hydropower dams are also a very big feat of engineering, and they require a lot of maintenance and planning. Otherwise, if they fail, the regions below the dam could be destroyed or wiped out by a possible dam failure. And the dams are also very expensive to build on their own, but they pay for themselves in the long run, and they have a relatively low impact on the air and atmospheric composition as well as the water itself.